Welcome to the deep dive.
Hmm.
You know, it feels like just yesterday, AI tools like ChatGPT were this novelty, right? A cool tech demo.
Yeah, totally.
And now they're just everywhere,
Mm.
really everywhere.
Mm.
We're seeing them pop up in, well, the most unexpected places. I even heard this anecdote recently about a rabbi delivering a Sabbath sermon that was actually crafted with AI help.
Oh, okay.
It's fundamentally shifting how we interact with information, from work to home.
It really is.
But here's a question, and it's kind of surprising. Coming out of recent research, while these tools are incredibly convenient, could relying on them actually be linked to cognitive decline?
That's a big question.
So today we're taking a deep dive into the latest findings on how using these large language models, LLMs,
Yeah.
might be impacting our very minds.
That's exactly right. Our mission today is, well, to really unpack what this significant new study found, connect the dots, between the research and what it actually means for you, for how you learn, and for education more broadly. We're mainly looking at a pretty groundbreaking study from the MIT Media Lab, but also touching on some of the different viewpoints and sort of policy approaches to AI integration that are out there.
Okay, so let's kick things off with that foundational research, the MIT Media Lab study. It's really fascinating how they designed it.
It is.
Specifically looking at how ChatGPT use affects brain activity.
Oh.
So they set up this experiment, right? 3 distinct groups of participants all asked to write an essay.
Okay.
Group 1, they relied fully on ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
Group 2 used traditional search engines, Google basically, the way we've done research for years.
Right, the standard way.
And Group 3, no outside resources, nothing,
Yeah.
just relying completely on what they already knew.
Wow, okay. Just pen and paper, metaphorically speaking.
Pretty much. And to see what was going on inside their heads, the researchers used electroencephalography, EEG, right, EEG.
In measuring the electrical activity.
Exactly.
And this is where it gets, well, really interesting and maybe a bit concerning, frankly. The findings were quite striking. The group that relied heavily on ChatGPT, they showed what the researchers called the weakest brain connectivity.
Weakest connectivity.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean in, brain terms?
Well, the EEG results basically indicated less robust communication between different parts of the brain, particularly those areas we usually rely on for complex thinking.
Like critical thinking,
Yeah.
problem solving.
Exactly. And crucially, long-term memory encoding. It suggests a more passive brain state. Like the brain isn't as engaged when you're just offloading the heavy lifting to the AI.
So it's not just less active, but the connections themselves, the pathways for thinking and remembering, were weaker.
That seems to be the implication. Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
that's powerful. And I think I read they also remembered less about what they wrote. Is that right?
Precisely. It wasn't just the brain scans. They actually remembered the least about the essays they'd supposedly just written. And the study tracked them over time, too. Found that over 4 months, these heavy LLM users consistently underperformed at neural, linguistic, and behavioral levels.
Okay, break that down. Neural, linguistic, and behavioral.
Yeah. So neural means their brain activity scans continued to show less engagement in key learning areas.
Okay.
Linguistically, their own writing, when they weren't using the AI, actually showed less sophisticated vocabulary and sentence structure.
So it might have been degrading their own skills.
That's the suggestion, yeah. And behaviorally, they did worse on tests measuring if they actually understood and retained the material they created with the AI.
Mm-hmm.
It really raises some serious flags about the long-term educational impact if we lean too heavily on these things.
That paints a really stark picture, doesn't it? Outsourcing the thinking, losing the memory. The lead author, Natalia Kosmina, she really hit this point hard, didn't she?
She did.
Saying that, yeah, ChatGPT is efficient and convenient, but users just aren't integrating any of it into their memory networks. The learning isn't sticking.
Exactly. And that leads to, well, a really important question, especially when you think about kids.
Right, developing brains.
Kosmina is quite outspoken about her worries there. She actually felt such urgency she released these findings before full peer review.
Really? Why the rush?
Because she had this specific fear. She said she worried that in 6 to 8 months, there will be some policymaker who decides, let's do GPT kindergarten.
Wow. GPT kindergarten.
Yeah, and she believes that would be, quote, absolutely bad and detrimental because, in her words, developing brains are at the highest risk from this kind of cognitive outsourcing. It's a really strong warning shot about policy.
That research definitely gives you pause. I mean, especially thinking about education policy.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you see this simultaneous push happening, right? to aggressively integrate AI into schools.
You do. It's a major policy dilemma playing out right now.
And it's important, I think, to bring in that other side.
Yeah.
While these MIT findings are, well, thought-provoking, not everyone shares those specific concerns about AI's impact, particularly on kids' brains.
Yeah.
There's a really strong counter-argument being made for more AI integration, arguing it's essential for future skills. What's the core idea driving that push?
Well, it's a vital counterpoint, and you see it clearly in policy actions. Like back in April, former President Donald Trump signed an executive order.
Ah, right. I remember that.
And it was specifically aimed at promoting AI integration in American schools. The stated goal was very clear, making sure the U.S. stays a global leader in this technological revolution.
So a competitiveness angle.
Absolutely. The philosophy is that AI isn't just another tool, it's a fundamental shift. The order talked about needing to give young people the skills to use and create the next generation of AI technology.
Okay.
It's about fostering AI competency so students can adapt and thrive in what they called an increasingly digital society. The argument being if we don't integrate AI, we're actually leaving students unprepared.
So what really stands out here, it seems to me, is this direct clash.
Right.
On one hand, you've got this new MIT research pointing to potential cognitive downsides, weaker brain connections, memory issues, especially concerning for kids.
Right. The potential risks.
And on the other hand, a clear policy drive for more AI in schools, seeing it as absolutely essential prep for the future digital world. It's a real tension.
It absolutely is. And it's a tension that's still being actively investigated. Cosmina's team at MIT, for example, they're not done.
Oh, what are they looking at next?
They're already working on another study, this time comparing brain activity in software engineers and programmers.
Okay, professionals using it in their jobs.
Exactly. Comparing those who use AI tools regularly in their coding versus those who don't. So it shows they're continuing to dig into the specific effects across different contexts and skill levels.
Right, trying to get a clearer picture.
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of walked through this fascinating and maybe, yeah, a bit unsettling dilemma today. You've got the undeniable efficiency, the convenience of tools like ChatGPT.
They are powerful tools, no doubt.
But then you have these newly revealed concerns about how they might be affecting our basic cognitive functions, our memory.
Yeah.
Particularly for younger minds still developing. It really does make you think twice about how we're using them, doesn't it?
It really does. And it leaves us with a pretty big question to ponder. As AI gets woven more and more into our daily lives, into our schools, how do we as individual learners strike that balance?
Yeah, the balance between using AI's power for efficiency.
And making sure we're still actively cultivating, strengthening our own thinking abilities, our own memory. What's the responsibility here for us as individuals, but also for institutions, for schools, especially now with these findings starting to emerge? How do we foster real learning and cognitive growth, not just, task completion?
That's a crucial question, something we'll all definitely need to keep wrestling with.